Eleanor was 76 when she finally decided to face the papers. Eleanor never meant to let it pile up, but somehow, over 25 years, the papers just multiplied. She had them everywhere, tucked into drawers, tucked behind the toaster, stacked in old cookie tins, folded inside magazines, hidden in shopping bags behind the couch, stacked in boxes under the bed, slipped between books on dusty shelves. A mix of bills, warranties, greeting cards, old recipes, church bulletins, receipts from stores that no longer existed. There were papers she didn't recognize and papers she recognized too well. They were everywhere. Every time she tried to start, the questions would come. What if I throw out something important? What if I regret it later? And worst of all, where do I even begin? So she didn't. She walked past them for years. Until one morning, Eleanor looked around and said to herself, "This isn't peace. This is weight." Now, maybe you've never met Eleanor, but something about her story feels familiar. Maybe because her drawers look like your drawers. Maybe because you've also stared at a pile of paper and felt that lump in your throat. Or maybe you've sat in your favorite chair thinking, "I just don't have the energy for this anymore." And if that's you, I want to say this with love and with truth. Mentis. You're not lazy. You're not a hoarder. You're not falling behind. You're someone who has lived a full, complex, beautiful life. And that life left behind a trail of paper. That's exactly where Eleanor was. But instead of trying to declutter like she did when she was 40, Eleanor made a different choice. She didn't rush. She didn't do it the right way. She did it her way. Slowly, gently, wisely. And within 2 days, she had done what felt impossible. She cleared 25 years of paper without guilt, without exhaustion, and without even standing up for most of it. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact 5 hacks Eleanor used to finally take back her space, one paper at a time. And if she could do it, I promise you can too. Before we jump into Eleanor's first hack, can I ask you a small favor? If you're sitting there thinking, finally, someone who actually gets what I'm dealing with, then go ahead and subscribe. You're welcome here, and I'm really glad you found this video. And if there's a certain kind of paper that drives you nuts, maybe it's old medical stuff or envelopes you've been avoiding for months, drop it in the comments. It helps to name it. You'd be surprised how many of us are quietly wrestling with the same mess. Now, let me show you what worked for Eleanor. 1. The 3-box rule. Eleanor didn't start by opening every drawer in the house. She didn't spread paper across the dining table. She started with 3 simple containers. One said keep, the second said shred, and the third said recycle. That was it. No fancy labels, no overthinking, just 3 boxes that gave her something powerful, a place to begin. The rule was simple. Every paper she picked up had to go into one of those 3. If it was something truly important, like legal, medical, or current financial info, it went in the keep box. If it had her name, address, or anything personal and wasn't needed anymore, it went in the shred box. And if it was just general clutter, old flyers, expired coupons, outdated manuals, it went straight to recycle. This simple system gave Eleanor the structure her mind was craving. She no longer had to ask, should I keep this? She only had to ask, which of the 3? And that took a huge weight off. But here's the part most people don't talk about. It wasn't just organizing. It was emotional. Every paper she touched came with a memory, a question, a whisper of the past. Some made her smile, others made her pause, and a few, well, they made her cry. But having a system, just those 3 boxes, helped her stay grounded. It let her make decisions without being buried in the emotion of each one. She didn't need to finish it all in one sitting. She just needed to keep going, one paper at a time. Now, if you're someone who struggles with energy or mobility, here's how Eleanor made it work without ever pushing herself too far. She sat in her armchair next to her 3 containers. Her niece brought over a small stack of papers from the hallway table, just enough to sort through slowly. When that batch was done, her niece brought a little more. And when Eleanor got tired, they stopped. No guilt, no pressure. If you don't have a helper, you can still do this. Just adapt the method. Bring a few papers to your chair or bedside in a bag, a tray, or even a cookie tin. Then place your 3 containers nearby. Laundry baskets, plastic bins, cardboard boxes. Whatever you already have. The point isn't to finish fast. It's to keep moving forward your way. This one method gave Eleanor something she hadn't felt in a long time: control. Not over the paper, over the process. She made the decisions, she set the pace, and with every item that went into a box, she felt a little lighter. Sometimes the hardest part of decluttering isn't the stuff. It's the fear that we won't be able to do it. But Eleanor did, and so can you. The 12-month rule. Eleanor had a tendency many of us share. She kept papers just in case. Old electric bills from 5 years ago, expired appliance warranties, notes from doctors she hadn't seen in over a decade. She couldn't bring herself to let them go, because in the back of her mind, she always thought, what if I need this later? What if this turns out to be important? It's not that she wanted to keep everything. She was just afraid of throwing away the wrong thing. Then one day her granddaughter said gently, "Grandma, if you haven't needed it in the past year, you probably won't need it again." That simple idea became Eleanor's second rule, and it changed everything. If she hadn't needed a paper in the past 12 months, and it wasn't legal or medical, she let it go. No debate, no guilt. 12 months became her threshold for clarity. That one rule helped Eleanor get unstuck. It gave her permission to stop holding on to paper out of fear. She realized that most of what she was saving wasn't about usefulness. It was about worry. Worry that she'd forget something. Worry that she'd throw away proof of something she might one day need to explain. But after years of carrying those papers around and not once going back to look at them, she realized something important. The act of keeping the paper was what was weighing her down, not the information on it. So she began to hold each item up and ask, have I needed this in the last year? If the answer was no, and it wasn't a will, a deed, a recent medical report, or anything she'd been told to hold on to, it went straight to the shred or recycle box. For Eleanor, this rule didn't just clear out paperwork, it cleared her mind. She started to feel less anxious, less uncertain. There was no need to reread every document or imagine a dozen what-if scenarios. Just one quiet question and a simple decision. And if you're the kind of person who struggles with that voice in your head, the one that says, keep it just in case, this rule might set you free too. Because here's the truth. If you haven't needed it in a year, your life has already proven it's not essential. Letting go isn't careless, it's wise. It's you deciding what matters most today. That's what Eleanor did. And once she started letting go of the just-in-case papers, she had more space, more peace, and a whole lot fewer envelopes stuffed into drawers. Be honest, how many just-in-case papers are hiding in your drawers? If you're nodding right now, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments what kind of paper always trips you up. For Eleanor, it was old warranties. 3. The legacy folder. Eleanor came across a letter from her late husband tucked between an old tax return and a dentist's bill. The letter was soft from handling, creased from being read and reread over the years. Her hand trembled as she held it. That's when she realized something important. Not all papers are just paper. Some carry pieces of your life, moments that can't be replaced and don't belong in the shred or recycle box. And yet, those treasures were mixed in with junk mail, expired coupons, and old phone bills. Everything felt jumbled together, important and unimportant, sacred and throwaway. That's when she decided to create something different. She called it her legacy folder. It wasn't for receipts or statements. It wasn't for maybe one-day documents. It was for her and for the people who loved her. Inside the legacy folder, Eleanor placed only what truly mattered to her story. A few handwritten letters, a photo of her children when they were small, the newspaper clipping from when she won an award at work, the speech from her 50th wedding anniversary, a birthday card from her father, written in a handwriting she hadn't seen in decades. That folder became her permission slip. It allowed her to let go of the rest, because the best was safely saved. Instead of keeping 100 papers out of guilt, she kept 10 out of love. And the most powerful thing she said about it? This is for my story, not my storage. You see, the legacy folder wasn't just for Eleanor, it was for the people who'd come after her, for the family members who might one day open a drawer and say, why did she keep all this? Now, they wouldn't have to guess. The folder would speak for itself. If you're sorting through old papers and feel your heart catch on something, a memory, a face, a time long gone, set it aside, not to hoard, but to honor. You don't need a whole cabinet to preserve your legacy, just one folder. And if you're someone with limited energy or movement, this can still work beautifully for you. Ask a loved one or helper to bring you small batches of papers, and as you sort through them from your chair or bedside, keep a special envelope or slim file nearby. That becomes your legacy folder. No lifting, no rushing, just choosing what feels like you. Eleanor's folder now rests in her dresser drawer. Not hidden, but not on display either. It's there when she wants to smile, when she wants to remember. And someday, when she's no longer here, it will remind the people she leaves behind of exactly who she was. Not every paper tells your story, but the ones that do, those deserve a home. 4. Snap and shred. One of Eleanor's biggest struggles wasn't with the junk. It was with the almosts. The church bulletin where her name had been printed for organizing the bake sale. A birthday card from a neighbor who'd since passed. A flyer from a reunion she didn't attend, but still smiled thinking about. They weren't things she truly needed, but they tugged at her heart. And when she stood over the shred box with one of those papers in her hand, she'd freeze. Her fingers would tighten. Her mind would whisper, "Not this one. Not yet." And that's when her niece gently offered a new idea. "Let's take a picture of it first." At first, Eleanor frowned. What would I do with a picture of a piece of paper? But the more she thought about it, the more it made sense. She didn't need the paper. She just didn't want to forget what it meant to her. So they made a little folder in her phone's photo album and called it Keepsakes. Her niece helped her snap quick photos, nothing fancy, just enough to preserve the memory, the handwriting, the feeling, the moment. And then Eleanor did something remarkable. She shredded the paper, not because it didn't matter, but because it did. And she had honored it in a way that didn't take up space in a drawer or cabinet. Snap and shred became her bridge between attachment and release. It let her hold on emotionally without holding on physically. It gave her freedom, not just from clutter, but from guilt. You might be wondering, what if I don't know how to use a phone like that? That's okay. Eleanor didn't either at first. Her niece helped. But if you don't have someone nearby, there are other ways. You could use a simple scanner app. Some libraries or senior centers have public devices that let you scan and email yourself images. Or, if that feels like too much, just set aside those few papers in a small folder marked to digitize later. When a friend or family member visits, ask them to help. The key isn't speed, it's clarity. And if you're sorting from a chair or a bed, you don't need to reach for anything. Just have someone bring the papers to you, one small stack at a time. You look, decide, snap, shred, rest. That's still progress. Eleanor used to feel stuck between her emotions and her drawers. Now, she has space, in her home and in her heart. If this snap and shred idea feels like something your sister, your friend, or someone you care about could use, don't keep it to yourself. Go ahead and share this video with them. And if you've ever saved a paper just because it made you smile, tell me what it was. I'd love to know. 5. The kitchen counter test. After 2 solid days of sorting through her paper clutter, Eleanor had made serious headway. Her keep, shred, and recycle boxes were working beautifully. She'd applied the 12-month rule. She created a legacy folder for the meaningful things she truly wanted to pass on. She even used her phone to take pictures of the memories she didn't want to store in drawers anymore. But even with all that, a few papers remained. They weren't obviously important, but they weren't obviously trash either. A phone bill from 2016, a thank you note from a church neighbor, a printed email with a Bible verse she liked but didn't remember saving. That's when Eleanor came up with her final hack, and it was simple, smart, and decisive. She called it the kitchen counter test. Here's how it worked. She looked at each paper and asked herself, if I found this sitting on my kitchen counter today, would I actually deal with it? Or would I move it aside like I've done 100 times before? That one question helped her cut through all the emotional back and forth. Because the truth was, most of those papers had already been ignored for years. They were just taking up space and energy she didn't have to spare. If she wouldn't act on it within the next day or two, it was gone. The kitchen counter had become her measuring stick, and it was perfect. Because it wasn't about perfection or paperwork, it was about her present life. No more saving papers, just in case. No more boxes full of Maybe, if it wasn't meaningful, recent, or actionable, it didn't make the cut. And for Eleanor, that clarity was the difference between staying stuck and finishing what she started in just 2 days. Now, if you're someone who's been sorting and still finding it hard to make the final call on certain papers, this might be your breakthrough too. Picture your kitchen counter. Would you handle it today, or would you push it aside? If you'd push it aside, let it go. And don't worry if you're not up on your feet or sorting through stacks on your own. Eleanor used a tray on her lap. Her niece brought her manageable batches to sort from her favorite chair. Each paper, one by one, got the same question. Would I handle this now, or am I just holding on out of habit? If it wouldn't earn space on your counter, it doesn't need space in your life. That's how Eleanor wrapped up her decluttering, with clarity, not confusion. Now, she finished in 2 days because she had help, time, and motivation. But that's not the rule. It's not a race. You don't have to declutter your papers in 2 days. You don't even have to do it all this week. You just need to start. Pick up one small stack, sort it using the hacks that feel doable to you, and see it through, at your pace. Because every bit of paper you let go of is a little more space in your home and a little less weight on your shoulders. If you're working from a chair, a bed, or on days when your energy is low, that's okay. You can still use this test. Ask a loved one to bring you small batches. Lay them out on a tray. Look at each one and ask, would I take care of this today, or am I just holding on to it out of habit? That question alone can unlock weeks, even years of stuck energy. And here's the truth. Finishing your paper clutter doesn't mean being fast. It means being free. So go gently, go slowly, but promise yourself this: you will start and you will finish. Because you deserve a space that reflects your life now, not just your past. Even after sorting, one question still comes up. Now what do I do with all this paper? The good news? You don't need to buy anything. You don't need a shredder, a special bin, or a paid service. There are simple, free ways to safely and effectively get rid of the papers you no longer need. For private papers, things like bills, bank statements, or medical records, the goal is to destroy the personal information. You can do that right at home. Tear them by hand into small pieces. It takes a little time, but you can do it while watching TV or listening to music. Cut them up with scissors, especially over the name or account number. Or try this trick. Soak the papers in water with a little dish soap. Let them sit for a few hours until they turn to mush. Once they're soft and unreadable, you can toss them in the trash without worry. These are all safe and effective, and they don't cost a thing. For regular paper, magazines, junk mail, old flyers, notebooks, use your home's recycling bin. If carrying is difficult, place papers in small grocery bags. Leave the bag near your chair or bed and fill it little by little. When it's full, you can ask a friend, neighbor, or family member to help place it by the curb, or take it out when you're already heading that way. And if recycling isn't available where you live, don't feel bad. You can throw non-private papers into the regular trash. There's no shame in doing what works. The key is this: you already did the hard part, deciding what to keep. Now you're just clearing space, and you can do it your way without spending a dime. You don't have to clear it all in one day. You just have to begin and keep going. Every paper you toss is a quiet victory. Not for a cleaner home, but for a lighter heart. Progress isn't how fast you move, it's that you moved at all. And that matters more than you know. So let me ask you, what's one paper pile you're finally ready to let go of this week? Just type a word in the comments. Receipts, old bills, random mail. That's all it takes to start. And if this felt like the kind of support you've been needing, I'd love to have you subscribe. Not for pressure, not for noise, just quiet help when you want it. You're not behind, you're just clearing space for what comes next.